Hey guys, Dr. Nathan Warren here. I just want to take a minute and go live and talk about a subject that I find really, creates a lot of questions in the healthcare field. And so, the question is, do I drink dairy or do I not? Is milk good for me? Is it not? And so I'm going to answer that question for you today. Listen, we don't consume dairy in our household. And so now, does that mean I think all dairy is created equal and is the worst thing in the world? No, I don't. And I'm going to go into that in just a second. So the caption is a little bit deceptive, but that's okay. So the reason we choose not to drink dairy and why I recommend that to most of my patients is because most dairy that you can find nowadays is loaded with all kinds of different, contaminants from the way that the animal was raised, specifically the cow, but also based on the fact that it's hard to find the right type of milk that actually contains the right type of nutrients in it. And so there's several things that you have to look at when we're looking at something like dairy. Number one, all right, you are not a baby cow, which means what? You're not trying to turn into a big cow. So that's one kind of right off the bat why I say, again, for most of us, if you can, stay away from dairy. Number two, you can get most of these nutrients from other sources, all right? And so, again, when we're talking about fat-soluble vitamins, yes, you can get fat-soluble vitamins from many different sources, including really good pasture-raised animal fats and proteins. Also, getting them from things like, other forms of vegetables and fruit and nuts and seeds. So, all that being said, the only, it's not the only source where you can get fat-soluble vitamins. The third thing is it's very, very hard to find the right type of casein in the milk. And so what do I mean by this? The majority of cows that are raised here in America actually produce either a mix of A1 and A2 casein milk or mostly A1 casein, all right? Now, casein is a protein that's actually in milk. A1 casein has actually been shown to be highly inflammatory to the body and can create all kinds of different, inflammatory markers, raise inflammatory markers within the body. So that being said, again, I am not a big fan of drinking cow's milk here in America. Now, that doesn't mean that all cow's milk is necessarily a horrible thing. If you choose to consume, right, cow's milk dairy, the way that I say to consume it is in a raw form from a local farmer. So yes, you heard me right, in its raw form. Now, hear this, I would never consume raw dairy from a Purity Farms or from one of these big, industrialized, 10,000 cow farms where they never see the light of day. I would never touch raw dairy from those farms. But from a local farmer, like for example, here in Chattanooga, I know that there's even, places like Fall Creek Farms that they raise A2 casein cows, and they, you're able to get something like raw milk, for your pets. In other areas, other states, it's actually legal to buy raw milk. So all that being said, you can get it from a good source, but it needs to be A2 casein, cows. So just to be safe, what my family and I do is we get A2 casein, dairy from other sources. So what is that? Sheep's milk, goat's milk, things like buffalo milk, those are almost always going to be A2 casein. So you can actually get things like, if you love yogurt, you can get things like, I know Redwood Hills yogurt is actually in most grocery stores now that you can get, that's goat's milk yogurt. We do raw goat's milk cheese, raw sheep's milk cheese, and we're doing it in its raw form, so it's got all the bioavailable enzymes to help break down, the proteins and things that are actually in the cheese. Also, it's got things like beneficial bacteria, and you're also looking at having some amazing micronutrients that are going to be bioavailable, vitamins A, D, E, and K. Now, if you also notice the caption, I said we don't drink our dairy, all right? That doesn't mean we don't consume any dairy. We just don't, consume it in the form of milk. Again, we do things like raw cheese. We will occasionally, my kids like to do things like whole milk, goat's milk yogurt or sheep's milk yogurt. like Old Chatham Farms sheep's milk yogurt is another great one that you can do. And that will get unsweetened, and we'll add like stevia or monk fruit or things like, some organic berries, some nuts and seeds, some chia seeds, hemp seeds, things like that. And it can be absolutely amazing for your health. But again, we don't drink our dairy because for me and my kids, we're not trying to turn into, take a baby cow and turn it into a big cow. So again, a little bit of a deceptive video, but that's okay. So is all dairy bad? Absolutely not. I don't believe so. I'm actually a huge fan of Weston A. Price. I love his stuff. And again, he was the dentist that actually traveled around the world and showed that, cultures that consume mostly vitamin A, D, E, and K, high amounts of fat-soluble vitamins, had amazing teeth, amazing jaw structure, and phenomenal health and phenomenal immune system. So I love Weston A. Price. So even though Dr. Rebecca and I are, we consider ourselves paleo, which is, just so you guys know, is a lifestyle, not a diet. It's an absolute lifestyle. We do consume some forms of dairy in the form of sheep's milk, goat's milk, or buffalo milk, which if you guys haven't had buffalo milk, mozzarella, oh my gosh, you are missing out. Absolutely amazing. And then some other ones too that I just want to mention as well. We do consume things like grass-fed butter, from pasture-raised cows, which you can get in many different, brands carry that now. But again, make sure it says pasture-raised or grass-fed, grass-finished. Also, too, I like non-GMO on it because I know for a while, even places like Kerrygold actually, they showed that in some of their cows, I think it was 3% of the milk that was produced actually could contain genetically modified organisms. So that is why we use things that say pasture-raised, organic, non-GMO, and there's several different ones like Vital Farms, or better yet, again, find you a local farmer that you can get it, or Amish, they produce some amazing butter as well too. So if you're going to consume dairy, all right, just as a breakdown, if you're just now joining us, consume it in as close to its raw form as you can, right? Consume mostly sheep's milk, goat's milk, or buffalo milk. And again, if you consume cow's milk, ask the farmer and make sure it's an A2 casein, right? A2 casein. And I like to consume it in more fermentable forms like raw cheese, like raw yogurt, things like butter that's been cultured. And that's our favorite way of consuming dairy. And so if you can, comment below on your favorite ways that you consume dairy and in the healthiest ways that you consume dairy. Maybe you're a local farmer who produces things like goat's milk or sheep's milk. Man, comment below as well because people are always looking for good resources. We'd love to hear from you guys, and I hope you guys have a fantastic night.